early in the morning and make a turkey. So,
Yeah, I don't care though.
yeah, I
It's
care.
awesome for me. Well, yeah.
I
Well,
care.
you're dying, so.
No, I'm not dying. I just have a little cold. Stupid. This happened the last time I went to Atlanta for an EPA hearing, which was right before my birthday. I came back and immediately got sick. I think
Ah.
like I just run myself ragged, like up to these like giant peak events, and then when it's over, my body's like, okay, it's time to relax now, and
Atlanta's where they film The Walking Dead. You better be careful that's not a zombie
Oh yeah,
virus
dude.
carrying there.
You
it's
better
where
not be patient zero because you're too close to San Antonio.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's where the CDC is too. So I probably picked
Yeah,
up
there
some
you
from it.
go. Somebody broke a vial or stole it or something.
Yeah. No, seriously, if I was worried about being turned into a zombie, I would drive myself out into the middle of nowhere and shoot myself to make sure that no one else got infected.
Yeah, the hell with it. I'd go to the most populated area and say, "It begins." Ah.
Oh no.
Yeah, and then let the xenophobes really rail against Mexicans. Good job, Marco.
We told you the Mexicans were gonna kill us.
You're gonna be
Oh yeah.
responsible for the Mexicans being put in internment camps. You know that?
No,
Like
Donald Trump is going to be responsible for putting the Mexicans in internment camps.
that's true.
Donald
Good
Trump
thing I look
Like,
kind of white.
It's like
Maybe I can get away with it.
Lucky you.
I don't know. You've got to change your last name probably.
Yeah, just take the E and the Z off the end.
Yeah.
I'll be Melissa
Martin
Martin.
is
No, if you're just Martin, Melissa
Martin.
Martin,
Martin. Yeah,
Melissa
exactly.
Martin. And say it with a twang.
that would work. I'm Melissa Martin.
Melissa
Melissa
Martin.
Martin.
How y'all doing?
I'm from San Antonio. Welcome,
San
y'all.
Antone.
I'm from
Now you
San
say San
Antonio.
Antone when you're not from San Antonio.
Oh, okay.
You're clueless.
See,
Yeah.
I am clueless, so there you go. I'm a transplant Californian Utahn living in Texas, so I couldn't be like I am the epitome of clueless when it comes to. So there we go. But oh my gosh, let's stop bantering and let's talk
Yes.
about Doctor Who because oh my gosh, this week's episode.
Yes, yes, dude. Oh my God, this Face the Raven, otherwise known as What the F. I
What?
was not expecting this, man. I
Okay,
thought. Oh,
quick, stop. Okay, spoilers, spoilers. If
major.
you listen beyond here, like, go watch this episode first because major things happen, and we're gonna talk about them. So you've been warned. Okay, proceed.
All right. I was not expecting us to lose Clara in this episode.
Yeah.
I thought she was gonna be lost in the two-parter coming up. So this was a complete kick in the nads, man. And I felt something wrong, and I was like, "Oh, this better not be it." This episode made me hate Ashilder. I don't like her. I
Yeah.
don't like her. Whatever affection I had for her before, I don't like her. And we got to see a side of the Doctor that we hardly ever see. And it was all because of what Ashilder did. Now there's questions galore as to who put this plan in motion. Why is his will needed? Who knew about the will? We kind of know one person who knew about the will,
Mm.
but what would be her purpose in? Well, I guess she's been wanting to get rid of Clara for a while. So there's a lot of questions, but everything that led up to it, I thought this was going to be another throwaway episode. Because
Yeah.
last week we had the eye booger monsters, which was ridiculous, and I didn't like the episode, and it was analyzed to death, and everybody pretty much came to the consensus that it was the weakest of the season, and probably one of the weakest episodes ever. So I thought this is going to be another throwaway episode to get us ready for the 2-episode run where we're going to lose Clara. But
And
no, the episode started off great. The concept was great. The development was great. And then they just give you a 10-yard runoff to kick you right in the nads. You don't expect this. So, God, was this
But
good and bad?
But you don't see how they're connected now, last week and this week's? I feel like there's a connection.
Okay.
Did you
Yeah.
not get that?
No.
Because the Doctor didn't win. last week, right? He couldn't solve the issue. And then Clara goes and, in her usual cavalier way, puts the tattoo on her neck, which, by the way, was that tattoo not awesome? I mean, that was creep-tastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. The creepy in all the best ways. Anyway, she put the tattoo on her neck, assuming that they always do, that they would just figure out a way to do it. But just right before this, they lost and they couldn't figure it out. And then she goes and beats cavalier like that, as if it goes back to the way it was before the loss. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
right.
They just took a hit where they couldn't figure out how to solve the problem of the eye booger monsters. And it's like it never happened. She forgot. You know what I mean? Like it was like a foreshadowing.
Yeah, there's recklessness throughout all of this. I mean, the whole thing where they're flying in the TARDIS over London and she's hanging out by her feet and like almost falling out kind of, and it's just like, this is just whatever. They are totally reckless. And the Doctor recognizes that at the end, and he's like, you are more fragile than I am, and I'd forgotten that. Mm-hmm. And that's the real tragedy here is she kept trying to be like the Doctor. Looking back now on the last season and a half, essentially, he has been trying to be the Doctor and trying to emulate him, and she's pretty good at being the Doctor, but she's not an immortal, and it finally caught up to her.
Right.
But what I thought the most brilliant thing about this was I was just like Mark. I thought this was another throwaway episode, specifically because they started off with a throwaway character from another throwaway episode last season. It's like I had forgotten that we'd seen him before, and I had to remind myself. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, the flat people. We didn't even review that episode. We took 30 seconds and just went. There was nothing remarkable in there, and then he's tied in to this whole thing, and man, just brilliant on so many levels.
And how awesome was it that they put him in there, and he's from the episode where Clara essentially was the Doctor, right? I mean, right down to the sonic screwdriver. She did that all as a stand-in basically for the Doctor. So there was all kinds of foreshadowing, and we just didn't know it till the end. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Here's the other thing. The longest running theme in Doctor Who is, well, it's a two-parter. One, unintended consequences, and two, fixed points in time cannot be changed. And if you do try to manipulate them, it comes back to bite you in the ass in the biggest way. Because had the Doctor let Ashildr die the way she should have, Clara would not have died in this episode, because Ashildr would have never been alive.
Oh my!
And she would have never.
She would have died eventually because she was.
Well, but not in this fashion though, because the reason she dies is because Ashildr sets everything up. Had Ashildr not been around that time and been 1,000-some years old, they would have never fallen into that trap. Now, other things may or may not have happened, but this was a direct result of the Doctor's actions. When he reminded himself of the reason why he took the face to try to save people, and he took that way too far with Ashildr. He brought her back from death.
But of Clara's actions too. I mean, she was right alongside him, and yeah, let's do this. We have to do this, and it really is like Greek tragedy.
Right, and it makes you wonder. What was his name? Caesarion? Was it
Caecilius?
Yeah. Caesarius or Caesarius, whatever his name was. We don't know what happened because everybody there should have died. He was saved, so we don't know if there's another story somewhere around there that leads directly from those actions. Because everybody should have died. So Ashildr should have died. She didn't, and now we lose Clara because of it. So that's one theme that worked there. Another one is how quick the Doctor is to turn to his dark side. Really quick. And it was freaking scary. And you know what? Once again, nobody could have done this better than Peter Capaldi.
Yeah.
Just like that whole speech when he's dealing with the Zygons, nobody could have topped Peter Capaldi. Nobody could have done this as well as Peter Capaldi. When he turns to a shielder and threatens to end her, to bring every enemy down on her, to bring hell upon her, the way he threatens her, and it's not an empty threat, it's not a veiled threat. Like, he has meaning behind and weight behind these threats, to the point where Clara recognizes it, and she gets him to promise not to do this. But even in her memory, he can't really keep this promise, and he tells the Shielder that line that I just loved, that line in this episode, where he says, "You will find that the universe is very small when I am angry with you."
I hated that.
Oh, I loved it.
It's a great line, but his anger at her is unfounded. He's more responsible than a Shielder is.
Oh yeah, but
his
is
anger is completely misplaced. He needs to look in the mirror.
I agree, but this is who the Doctor is. This is one of his big faults, and I love that about it. I'm not saying that I like that he threatened her. I like that we saw that darkness in him that was always there, and he put it out in the forefront for us to see. I really love that. It really further builds that character of that particular Time Lord.
Oh, come on, just admit it. You like to see an old man threatening a little girl.
I want to be that old man. Hopefully I will be that old man. Just threatening kids.
Anyway, Melissa?
I don't know. I feel like we've seen his dark side all these last 2 seasons with Capaldi, and just seeing it boil over, it wasn't fun because it was unfounded. Yes, a Shielder, she set the trap, but he's the one who allowed that to happen by not stopping. I mean, he knew what Clara was becoming. I mean, we even talked about this when we discussed last season, that she was a TARDIS junkie. She was just too addicted to it, and he should have done something to curb it, but he didn't. And he already thought she was dead like twice this season. You know what I'm saying? Like how much more danger was he going to put her in? Seeing how she would just kind of recklessly do the things she did, knowing that they would always figure it out,
But in all fairness, she put herself in that.
I'm not saying she's not culpable here, but the Doctor knows better.
Yep.
And he should have done something. How many, throughout his entire history, how many has he gone through? How many, companions have there been, and with tragic endings? He should look out for these things. These red flags should be more obvious to him by now, but they're not. So that's why the speech at the end, I understand why you like that line. It was pretty badass, but it was just, it was unfounded. But what I didn't, what I'm wondering though, the next 2 episodes, there's 2 things I'm wondering about after this. It looks like her death is pretty permanent. Now, that doesn't mean we won't see her again, because, of course, she was thrown into the Doctor's timeline, in her first season.
Right.
So, if he travels to anywhere in his own past, we could see her, know. We could easily see her again, but I think that she's still dead, know. So, if the theme this season has been unintended consequences, we saw it with not killing Kid Davros, right?
Right.
We saw it with the Zygons. We saw it with the Shielder. We saw it now with poor Clara. So if this is a theme throughout all the season, what's the biggest consequence that he should face the music for?
Letting Missy live.
I was
thinking more the
Gallifrey.
Yeah, Gallifrey.
Yeah.
Saving Gallifrey or
okay. Misplacing Gallifrey. Whatever.
I would love it if the deal that Alistair made was with the Time Lords.
Yeah.
Or,
Okay.
do you know what I'm saying?
Great job building. Great job bringing that up, because that's one of the first things I said. Because we know only of a few people who know about the will. Missy, Davros, and anybody else from Gallifrey. So just like you, my mind went to, oh crap, somebody found Gallifrey. Missy probably found Gallifrey, and there's people in Gallifrey who hate the Doctor.
Right.
Have they put a hit on him? This is going to be. Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen. You know,
we don't.
I mean, it could be just Missy. Honestly, if it was just Missy, it would be kind of boring.
You're right.
Because it's so obvious.
Right.
So I hope it's something more. My mind went to Gallifrey. I'm thinking, some of the Time Lords could have easily arranged this, and they would have known about the last will and testament, But the other thing I want to know, and maybe Marco and I might get into it, we saw some of his initial reaction, the Doctor, to Clara's death. But one of my biggest criticisms of Moffat is that he very much glosses over or just skips altogether the emotional ramifications of what he does to his characters. So I just have to wonder, if Claire's gone, are we just going to see the Doctor in his next adventure? You know what I'm saying? Like, is there going to be another time jump so we don't have to see Amy and Rory crying over their stolen baby? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just wondering because if he skips over that and all we saw was just his anger at those last 2 minutes of this particular episode, that'll make me very angry, because you have to show something.
I think we're gonna see anger fueling his actions for the next 2 episodes, and maybe much more in the coming season. But anger is definitely gonna be. I think we're finally gonna see a little bit of hatred behind his actions. This is gonna be the Doctor unraveled. This is gonna be what the Doctor is like without a companion. And I think he's going to prefer it that way for a while. We're in for a stretch of some pretty dark things coming. And I think that's good for his character, and it's good for the storytelling. It's great for the narrative. Maybe not good for the Doctor himself, but it's good for us viewing this and following the story. We had to see this. We have to go through that catharsis with him. And I'm pretty excited to see that. I'm not excited to see him suffer in any way, because I love that character, but I think this is part of what we all need to go through together as part of the whole Whovian experience.
I think that rather than seeing this as a standalone and a 2-parter, that this is probably more likely should be seen more as of a trilogy.
Right.
That I think this is going to directly lead into consequences for both of the next 2 episodes, which are obviously tied together, and I think they pulled a real fast one on us with all of them. And I mean, I agree with you, Melissa, that Moffat is bad at doing that. I think that in this case, he killed off Clara early so that he could explore those deepest, darkest places with the Doctor, companionless. And I mean, to go back to your point a little while ago about all of his misplaced anger, that is the most human thing in the world, isn't it? We get angry at other people when it's really our own fault, and he's going to be internalizing so much of that. And I mean, maybe I'm setting my expectations too high here, but I think they have set this up to just deliver something absolutely amazing. And it was so shocking to see Clara go, but wow, I mean, considering what the possibilities are then for this setup, that's great. And at least it's not another this is your life, goodbye episode like we've had so many times before, which a lot of other companions have kind of had. And at the same time, it's also not an Amy and Rory, oh, sorry, you're back in time, you're dead, that's terrible, goodbye, see ya.
Right. Yeah, and I liked, didn't like, I hate loved that Clarice didn't want him to be part of this process, where she's like, no, let me do this. I have to do this because he wanted to be with her when she died, and I guess in a certain way you could say she cheated him of that. But maybe she felt like it was necessary for him not to be a part of this. It was. I'm not gonna say it was awkward or that I didn't like it. It's just that I felt like for somebody who was so hung up on the doctor for so long, why wouldn't she want him right there next to her? And it added another layer of sadness.
Well, did you hear whose name she invoked right before all of this happened? She said she was going to be like Danny Pink.
Oh, I missed that. I must have missed that.
She's going to be like Danny Pink, and she's going to face this bravely. And I think that colored what her expectations were of, like, this is how you face a noble, tragic death.
Oh, wow, I completely missed that. I guess I was so blown away with the events that were going on that my mind kind of shut down for a little bit. I didn't hear that. Oh, wow.
Yeah, go back and watch that entire last 10 minutes. There's so much in there that's really, really, really good.
Right. Jeez. Yeah,
what I didn't get about the last 10 minutes. Okay, so Rigsy is back with the TARDIS, I guess, in London, and he spray painted it in memory of Clara.
Uh-huh.
But didn't they say earlier that when they leave that street that they have their memories wiped? So how does he know Clara's dead?
No, the only reason he had his memories wiped before was because they retconned him.
Right.
Right, but remember when she said everybody who leaves here will be retconned, and Clara was like, the hell we will?
Oh.
Remember? She says that it's protocol, basically. You don't remember that?
I do. So maybe though, he knows that the TARDIS is out of place, that Clara should be there if the TARDIS is there, and she's not. And so he's like, hey, what's going on? Like, maybe it's just because he remembers back from their previous adventure. Or maybe that was just like a subtle, oh, well, hey, remember he was a graffiti artist before? Well, then we're going to have him do a
Yeah, but he shouldn't remember that she's dead. That's what I'm saying. He should have been retconned.
Well, but he might remember that she's gone. He still remembers that she exists.
I think Ashildr is. I think she changed the rules. I think everything that happened may have made her reverse her decision on that. She may have abandoned the alley and moved everybody else because now she's afraid of the Doctor. So
that's it. That's right. What it is. Because the Doctor knows, and she can't wipe the Doctor's memory, and so if he gets out of whatever she's sending him into, then they're screwed, and she's got to flee someplace. I think that's so. Why retcon? Some dumb human.
So, no, it just seemed weird to me. That's all.
Yeah, I get it. You're right. You caught all these good things. But I really do think that this was Ashildr saying, you know what, we're out of here. I'm not going to worry about you, one human person. Do what you got to do. We're gone. We're leaving.
And it's funny that she fears the Doctor now.
Yeah.
But all she did was what the Doctor does all the time. He's like mad at her for doing what he does all the time.
He doesn't send people to their death.
No, but not that part. She didn't do that. Clara and the Doctor did that.
She sent the Doctor away to people who want him, and they want him for one purpose.
Well, we don't know that for sure, but you're right. But the thing is, though, that she's, he likes to set traps so that the people he's trying to fight fall into them. You understand? And he uses what they, their weaknesses or whatever against them a lot. And that's basically what she did.
It's exactly what she did. She said, you can't resist a mystery. And She set that cheese right out on that trap and
Yep.
brought
And
him right in.
she did exactly what he does over and over and over. And he's like, you know, it's just ironic, I think, that he's so mad at her for doing what he does all the time. And, you know, it would have worked without Clara dying if Clara hadn't taken over the tattoo. That is not Alistair's fault.
Right. Shoot. I mean, oh God.
I think that the real thing is, again, you know, that is so very human.
Mhm.
We get mad at things in other people that we do ourselves. That's classic psychological projection. And so, of course, I mean, go back to Time Heist, where the doctor's talking about how he hates the mastermind behind what's going on. He hates himself. He hates other people who are like himself. And he has created in Ashildr someone who is very much like himself. And that has got to burn at him and gnaw at him. And he's created someone very much like himself in Clara. And unlike the other two of them, she's totally mortal. And, you know, you keep rolling those dice enough times, it finally came up on Snake Eyes for her, and they couldn't find a way out. Not only that, I mean, 2 times in a row, they couldn't find a way out. So
Yeah.
they're just not as clever as they think that they
I
are.
thought they were, right.
Yeah, it's just crazy. There's so much subtext, so much foreshadowing that we didn't realize was foreshadowing at first. The only real criticism I have, besides the fact that I felt it was messy that they didn't, that they let Rigsy remember that Clara's dead to paint that memorial of her, because he should have been retconned. I thought that was sloppy without an explanation.
Unless the Ashildr just up and took off with everybody.
Yeah, but it's still I just hate sloppy loose ends like that. It's just, you know. But the other only criticism is that the special effects were really terrible in this episode. Like that Anna girl that what they thought had been murdered, that they accused Rigsy of murdering. You know, those supposed to be some kind of like laser beams or something holding her up looked like strings. They just looked like, you know what I'm saying? And that crow looked like something plucked off some dude's pirate Halloween costume. It was awful.
The Raven was cool.
It's just I
was
did not
okay with the
think the
Raven.
special effects were very good. But, you know, considering the dramatics and everything else that happened, you can overlook them. But it would have been nice to have just a complete package. I know the BBC is very cheap in the budgets they give their shows. They're notorious for it. But come on, such a momentous episode, just a little more.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm gonna defend the graphics by saying BBC is not Disney. I mean, they don't have Disney pockets. But I didn't think it was bad. I thought the crow was.
But it wouldn't have taken Disney pockets just to make it look like it's not threads holding on up. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like it.
I didn't notice anything.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't. Looking back on it, I can see what you mean, but it didn't bother me at all because I was so intrigued by the story up to that point. And I think that, I mean, maybe I kind of hope that they're saving it for the last 2 episodes, and they're gonna do something. Yeah, do something really amazing. So, you know, we still haven't seen David Tennant, and supposedly he was in Cardiff filming stuff.
Right.
That one time with Russell T Davies and Moffat. So,
which further makes you wonder if they're going to Gallifrey.
Yeah, exactly. Or if they're going to do something Day of the Doctor-esque. So we'll see.
You know, here's the other thing. We've been hit over the head with this for a while now. The Doctor is a good Dalek. And are we going to see that now? Are we going to see him go Dalek? This strong current of hate that he has, that the Dalek was able to kind of expose a little bit, and Davros was able to play with. Is it going to be full go now, or it's going to be interesting to see how far they take this with the Doctor.
I love that part of him. You know, and going back to that question of, what was supposed to be the question of last season, but it can reverberate now just as much. Am I a good man?
Yeah.
And that's still up for grabs with this doctor, with Peter Capaldi. He's kind of shifting with the wind a little bit, and it is scary. But I mean, I complained before about Matt Smith, um, and the way Capaldi handles it is so much more intense, and it's just I'm really excited to see what they're gonna serve up to us next.
Yeah.
And isn't it great? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just about to say that everybody who complained about Peter Capaldi as the Doctor, I mean, you have no other option right now than to eat your words because he has brought so much to this role this season. Last season was very uneven, but this season he became the Doctor and added this other complete dimension to the Doctor that we haven't seen before. This intensity that he has. Great choice they made picking him as the Doctor. So hopefully now everybody can get over their preconceived notions of Peter Capaldi and just accept him. Because I honestly don't think anybody could have done this last season better than he did. And I'm a huge Matt fan, but Peter just been fantastic this season. And this episode, that well of anger that he must have, I don't know if it's an acting thing or if he does have this gigantic well of anger, but boy, did he emote that so well.
It's the eyebrows, man. It's all
It's the eyebrows.
No, but it feels like Doctor Who really has grown up, like step by step over the last 10 years, from being a little kids show into being really hardcore, intense science fiction, which is where it's at now. And I think that there are still a lot of okay, this is going to sound very paternalistic and sexist, and I don't mean it that way. So I'm going to be a little bit more gender inclusive here. There are a lot of little boys and little girls who were very much in love with David Tennant and the idea that Rose and the Doctor were boyfriend and girlfriend, and they loved that, and it was like watching 90210 or Sweet Valley High or something. and Matt Smith and Amy and Rory, and it's like domestic wedded bliss and happy timey-wimey space time. And it's a little bit more mature, but after the Day of the Doctor and coming into Capaldi, it's like we've made that leap from Sweet Valley High to Battlestar Galactica reboot, and it's a completely different universe, and I like that universe. Everybody says like, oh well, you like whoever your first Doctor is, that's who your Doctor is going to be. I think I made the right choice jumping in at Capaldi. We talked a couple weeks ago about like kind of a retrospective of looking back on all of this. Otherwise, I think I might have been like, oh, this is like a kind of fun show. It's like Harry Potter. It's like, it's fun, it's great, but this has taken it to really intense levels, and I'm really glad that they're bringing that to us at such an intensity.
Would you let Julia watch this, Marco, this episode? Would
she saw it with
nightmares?
me. She saw it with me, and she loved it.
So you think this is okay for kids still to watch, like, because I don't think it's a children's show anymore. That's always been one of its hallmarks, that it was a family show. That's why it's on a little earlier in prime time and whatever.
That actually changed with the maybe midway through the fourth Doctor. It was actually way more science fiction and adult oriented than it ever was a kids show. It was never initially it was intended to be a kids show, but then it got switched to an educational show. So the Doctor was more of this traveling philosopher, but it wasn't kid centric. If you see the first season ever of Doctor Who with Phil Hartnell as the Doctor, you have Aztecs ripping people's hearts out, where the Doctor goes to ancient Mexico. So it didn't start being real kiddie until it started losing its steam towards the end of the Fourth Doctor and on. It became very kiddie and almost soap opera-ish.
Right, but that's how it's sort of remembered, though, is what I'm saying. Like when they rebooted it, a lot of people called it the children's show, or a family show is more,
Right.
But this is far and away the darkest, in terms of unrelenting. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no break from it, really.
Right, and I'm glad for it.
Yeah, me too. I'm just saying, like, is this still appropriate for kids at this point, though?
I think so. I think so because it teaches all the right life lessons for kids. If we go back to the Zygons, it shows the futility of war and violence, which is a great message. Not avenging somebody's death because you're angry on this episode. Great message for kids. And how anger really gets you nowhere. So in that aspect, there's still a message for children, life messages. So yeah, but it is way more grown up, and I think it all depends on the sensibility of the child. My kid is real curious, real curious, and she loves sci-fi, and I've never even really pushed it down her throat or anything. She sometimes watches stuff I watch, but sometimes she just naturally gravitates towards it. And last night's episode, she was blown away. She's like, "Why did Clara die? What's going to happen? What's going to happen now? What are the next episodes going to be about?" And she wants to know exactly when this is going to end because she actually wants more episodes. So, if my kid is anything to measure by, kids are still into this. But like I said, I think it all depends on your child's sensibility.
Totally, completely depends on the kid. Like, Andy, I think, would dig a lot of this. I think she would be very upset at, like, watching Clara die. But that's because she...
How old is Andy?
She's 10. But she's kind of, I don't know, she's kind of sensitive. She has, like, a sweet spirit about her, and she doesn't like... to see violence and death and things like that. But I think it is still in that vein of, like, Star Trek is a very vast universe. And I feel like I could watch all of the original series and The Next Generation and Voyager with my kids, and it would be fine. Some of those episodes of Deep Space Nine, maybe not. It gets a little bit intense in some of that. You look at stuff like The Changing Face of Evil or something near the end, and it's almost like a completely different show in a different universe. I mean, it's still there, but I think that's one of those things where know your kid and know what they're good for. But yeah, I think some kids will really dig this. Some people are ready for it. And let's remember, I mean, I compared it to Harry Potter. The premise of Harry Potter is his parents were brutally murdered when he was a baby. And the guy who killed them is trying to kill him too for 7 books and 8 movies. So kids can deal with a lot of darkness.
And the family that's raising him hates him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's.
Yeah, see, that's what I thought too. Because I'm not a parent, I thought I would ask you guys, because watching Clara die like that, I think that could be traumatizing to certain kids. When I look at, like, my nephews, the closest thing I have to kids, like, my 17-year-old nephew would be fine because he's almost an adult, but the 11-year-old, he's way too sensitive. He would just cry and cry if he saw this. You know what I mean? So it just depends. Like, I mean, like, he was asking about World War II the other day, and so I explained it, but I tried to do, like, the best PG version of World War II, which is very hard to do, by the way, because tell him about, like, say, tell him about, like, Nazi skin tattoos. You know what I mean? Like how they took them off the Jews, the tattoos off the Jews. That would be way too much for him because he's too sensitive. You know what I mean? So. I agree. It depends on the kids, but again, I'm not a mother, so it's better to sort of hear it from parents.
Yeah, and that you also got to take in mind the manner of death. It wasn't graphic at all. Sure, it was sad and it was shocking because nobody expected Clara to leave in this episode. But there wasn't a gratuitous death scene where you see blood coming out of her, eyes popping out of her head. It's just an action happened. She passed, and she was gone. She wasn't there anymore. So it softens the blow. And to give you an example, my daughter won't come near me if I'm watching The Blacklist or Person of Interest. She calls them the killing shows because you know what, they show point blank range, people shooting somebody's head, and bullet comes out the other way, and there's blood splashing on the camera. She doesn't like that, and I'm cool with that. I tell her all the time, hey baby, I'm gonna watch The Blacklist. Go upstairs. I'll call you when I'm done. But in a show like this, where the death scene wasn't gratuitous or excessively morbid, she's cool with it. She understands it's a fictional character. It's okay to feel feelings for that character, but it's not real.
And they also softened the blow by telegraphing exactly what was going to happen, and you had the countdown clock, and you could prepare yourself for a minute. It's like, right. Holy crap, they're not going to get out of this. I mean, I talked about Deep Space Nine, and like the way that they killed off Jadzia Dax at the end of season 6, it was like, I did not see that coming. Oh, she's just dead now. Great. Thanks. And it was like not like meaningless, but it wasn't like this. And they telegraphed this well. I think they couched it a little bit, and it's frankly a lot less upsetting than Amy and Rory's death, I think.
Well, because they didn't die. Well, Amy and Rory didn't die, but yeah. I know what you mean, though. Yeah, I was more upset with that, and I actually cried at that, whereas this, I was just kind of upset. I didn't watch it last night, thankfully, or I might have just gone to bed upset. But it's funny because I was out shopping because my nephews, who I already mentioned, are going to be here the majority of this coming week that they're off Thanksgiving. So I had to go get kid-friendly food because they're not going to eat my Brussels sprouts, And so I was out late last night, and I got home. I was like, you know what? I'm going to sleep in tomorrow, make some brunch, and watch Doctor Who. What a great way to start your Sunday. And then that happened. You know what I mean? It was just like, screw you, Moffat. So, yeah, that was unexpected, to be sure. But I didn't mean to hijack the conversation. I was just curious because I thought about this when I was watching it today. Like, oh my God, my 11-year-old nephew, he would just cry at that. So I just wondered what real parents thought, and not substitute occasional parents like me.
Real parent, Andy Wilson.
And the only other thing I have to add, I'm just so thrilled with the way this season is shaping up and how excited we are for the finale, because last season it just felt like a slog, and I just didn't even care because I knew that the whole climax of the season was gonna be revealing Missy as the mistress or the master, but we already knew that. Everybody already guessed that, and they made it like this big reveal or whatever, and there was nothing really to look forward to, I feel. You understand what I'm saying? I didn't have the excitement or the curiosity at the end of last season, and now I'm I have all these ideas of where they're going to go or who wanted the doctor. You know what I'm saying? It's just a nice change of pace.
Yeah, I think they've been leading us along the whole way. And we've been guessing and second guessing things that we were sure of at the beginning of the season didn't come to fruition, and stuff came at us from left field. It's been a great season, borderline perfect. We've only had one episode that we all agreed was a stinker, but now that I think about it, I think it was maybe it was done on purpose. They really wanted.
I do too. It leads right into this episode. Yeah.
Right. They wanted to catch us off guard, and by God, did they do it. This season so far has been so good, and I really hope it ends with a bang. I hope we're not hyping up the season too.
I know, like whatever's in our imagination is better than what actually happens.
Right.
That would be terrible.
But so
But I
far,
don't think so. If we have
Yes.
anything to go off this season, I don't think we're going to be disappointed. Which, again, not like last season where it was like, okay, I'm just going to get through this, because I want to watch it for completion's sake and in case they do happen to do something great at the end. But all they did was kill Danny Pink. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm just excited about being excited about this season. And I feel like they've, the energy they lost last season, the momentum, they've gained it all back. They've gained back a lot of my trust. And I think anyone who doesn't like this season of Doctor Who, and I know this is going to sound very unfair of me to say, but I feel like maybe they just don't like Doctor Who.
I think you're right.
I know that sounds very like elitist, and I hate elitists, especially like nerd or geek elitists. They really bother the hell out of me. But if you don't like this season, and there are some people who don't, then you just don't like Doctor Who.
Right. And it goes back to what Andy was saying, is they wanted that, Sweet Valley High, they want the Sweet Valley High romance crap. And
Yeah,
I'm still angry at RTD about that. And it turned me off.
I think earlier what Andy was saying, how he was trying to be like more gender inclusive, whatever. I don't know why, because Marco and I have said this, the little tween teeny boppers who love David Tennant because he's so cute. Just say it. It's fangirls who aren't really fans of Doctor Who so much as David Tennant and even a little bit of Matt Smith. You can go ahead and say it. I don't think it's going to sound bad.
Well, I say it.
Because we say it all the time, Marco and I.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's something about a middle-aged white man talking about what teenage girls are into that screams of elitism and not only that, but of somewhat troubling like gender tropes of like, oh, well, you silly little girls, you only like things that you get Twitter pated about, and I just don't want to say that, and so whenever I bring that up and I'm talking with Adam McDonald from Big Shiny Robot, and I'm like, oh, all those little fangirls who just love David Tennant or love Matt Smith, he's like, to be fair, there's a lot of little fanboys who like them. That is true.
Yes, but it still doesn't change the fact that it's the crush factor.
Yeah, but and so that's fine. I don't want to be denigrating towards that because all of that is fine, and that's completely okay. And you should be able to enjoy Doctor Who on your levels because it is a multi-layered show that you can enjoy on multiple levels. And so I don't want to police anyone's fandom and say they can't do that. But I do agree with you. Like I definitely have that tendency where I'm just like, yeah, this is the season. If you don't like it, yeah.
Maybe you were into one of the actors or something, but you weren't necessarily into the mythology, I think. You know what I mean? And that's fine. As long as you help keep the ratings up, watch it. Please stay a fan because you got to keep the ratings are slipping. The ratings have been slipping for a while now, and it's still not to the level where they're going to cancel, but eventually that could happen. So please, all fans or maybe not quite fans or whatever, I don't care. Just watch it. You know what I mean? Just keep watching.
So, do we have anything more to say about this, or do we want to shift gears and talk about Jessica Jones real quick?
I'm pretty sure there's a lot more to say, but
yeah, we've talked it into the ground. 'Cause I think there's no more to say until we know what happens next.
Yeah. So we'll put a.
Why don't we speculate? Let's speculate. What do we think is going to happen? Each one of us.
I thought we already did that. I did. I already said I think they're going to Gallifrey, and it was the Time Lords who had it out for him, who made the deal with Alistair. And if anything else happens, damn it, no, I'm kidding.
Do you think Missy has anything to do with this at all?
I kind of hope she does because I love her, but I kind of hope she doesn't because it's too expected. You know what I'm saying?
Being that they didn't take the Last Will and Testament, do you think that Missy's holding on to it because she knows that the Time Lord Council is out to get the Doctor, and she's gonna swoop in and save him at the end?
I wouldn't be surprised if she saved him. She doesn't want him to die because who is she going to play with? You know?
Right. Yeah, it's Batman and Joker with those two.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, there's just so much we could talk about, but
you said everything that I could possibly speculate, Melissa. I can't come up with something better than that. Except to say that, like I said, David Tennant. We haven't seen him yet, so possibly the appearance of another Doctor. So.
All right.
Okay. Speaking of David Tennant.
Great segue.
Yeah. So Marvel's Jessica Jones dropped on Netflix on Friday, and I've only gotten through 3 episodes. Mark, you have not gotten through any. You're the big winner. You got all of them. So
yeah.
Considering that David Tennant is the villain in this show, and not only that, but I think reaches a new level of iconic villain status in the same realm as Loki and Kingpin and any of the other people in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's just awful and creepy. We kind of have to talk about this because he is so amazing in this. So we are going to keep this portion spoiler free. So if you haven't watched Jessica Jones, don't worry, we won't spoil anything. I guess should we introduce kind of what Jessica Jones is about
Yeah, I guess so. That way, when we talk about Tennant's character, it'll make more sense.
So Jessica Jones is a private investigator who runs Alias Investigations, and part of most of what she does is chasing down people having affairs and working for a corporate law firm to do kind of dirty deeds, scummy things, or whatever. She lives kind of on the wrong side of the law. She's also got a little bit of superpowers. She's kind of super strong. But she has a secret, and it turns out that previously she was kidnapped and kept by a raging psychopath by the name of Kilgrave, also known as the Purple Man. Melissa, do they ever call him the Purple Man in the show?
Or I don't think so, no. I believe it's always Kilgrave, and it becomes a joke later, like what... like Dead Cemetery was taken, what a name, you know what I mean? Because that's not an actual birth name. It becomes a joke later in the series. Because there is some levity. But I don't believe they ever. I mean, there's reference. He wears purple sometimes. It's subtle, but it's there. But I don't remember them calling him the Purple Man ever.
Yeah. So he has the power to make people do what he wants them to do. If I told Mark, go and jump out the window, then Mark would go and do that.
Dude, why?
Yeah, well, exactly. And if you think about it, that is the single most abusable superpower, if you think about it. Like, talk about absolute power corrupting absolutely. If you can just tell people to do whatever you want, you could get anything. And he is literally inside Jessica Jones' head. And we both see what happened, how she escaped from Kilgrave, and then now what seems to be him creeping back into her life and other things happening. And David Tennant is so creepy and so good in this. Like I said, I'm only 3 episodes in, but I'm absolutely blown away by how smooth and suave he is. Like, you can totally see how he's rocking these superpowers, but he does it with so much evil.
And if you're a Doctor Who fan, you really see his range here, because even though he did occasionally show some of his dark side, his years as the Doctor were much more fun than what we've got now, like with Capaldi, which is like really dark. But here, yeah, he's menacing like all the time, and you really get to see how good of an actor he is. In case you didn't know before, you'd only seen him in Doctor Who.
You know what, Melissa? I was telling Andy that on my Facebook feed, I saw a couple of tweets where people were saying that David Tennant taking this role has ruined their Doctor Who experience because he's that bad. Is it really that bad, or is it just exaggeration?
I think they're exaggerating. I mean, he's menacing, yes, and he's an SOB, but I don't know. There's a part later on, much further in, where it gets really deep and dark, and they almost make him sympathetic. But when they tell his origins, and you almost want to feel sorry for him, even though you know he's a son of a bitch. So it's. And I say almost because you never quite get there. At least I didn't. But I'm a little more heartless than most, I think. So maybe some people would sympathize. I don't. It doesn't ruin my viewing of Doctor Who. I think that this was something that was sort of written on the wall already. That people were going to say this, you know. And I think when it comes, especially to like social media, people will say anything that'll get them talking or say anything that's like a trending topic, so I tend not to put too much into that, you know?
So-and-so raped my childhood, that kind of
Oh,
thing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Those kind of exaggerators, you know?
Yeah.
If this is all it takes for you to not enjoy Doctor Who anymore, once again, you probably don't enjoy Doctor Who.
But
I can't believe I'm saying that twice in one time over in totally different subjects, but it's the truth.
Or it could be that Sweet Valley High thing that we were talking about, where they had such a the fanboy fangirl crush thing.
Yeah, maybe right? Some of those people.
That view of the Doctor, mm-hmm. David Tennant, has been ruined by this guy being kind of creepy and rapey and whatever it is.
Oh my gosh, I need to.
After this, Doctor Number 10 and Rose can have their faux little forced relationship, whatever. It doesn't.
That's horrible.
It can still happen, okay? Rose and the one-hearted Doctor can still be off on their little beach together, okay? Yeah, I think that's an exaggeration. Tennant will always be number 10 to me. He's always going to be there, but but he is bad. He's a bad man in here. But it's funny because Andy, when he was introducing it, he said that he's up in the pantheon with like Loki and them other Marvel villains. And it's funny you said that because I was thinking while I was watching, like, imagine if Loki and I love the performance that I forget the actor's name who played Loki. Yeah, Tom Hiddleston. He was so good in Thor and in the Avengers that I was kind of on Team Loki. Like, I really wanted to root for Loki. And in Thor 2, I was all Loki because I didn't even really enjoy that one that much. I thought it wasn't that great. It's pretty good, but it's not great, Yeah, I love Loki. Imagine if Loki had that power that Kilgrave has to get people to do what he wants by just saying it and get in their minds that way. See, because Kilgrave is working with small potatoes. Like, he doesn't seem to want anything. He's not like bent on world domination. You know what I mean? He's not trying to find any Infinity Stones. He's not trying to save the world or crush the world. It's like he just wants to have this little setup with Jessica or some other girl to do all his dirty work for him so that he can pretend like he's never killed anyone, even though he orders people to kill him, so he really does kill them. He doesn't have those lofty ambitions. You understand what I'm saying?
Totally.
So it's so strange, but it keeps it that I guess that's what keeps it all in Hell's Kitchen. You know what I mean? That's what makes it feel almost claustrophobic, because they're in this like somewhat block radius, and that's all you ever see. You know what I'm saying? Until, well, later on you see a little more. They go out in the suburbs a bit, but it's
Okay, now
but
that you brought that up, I do want to ask, without giving anything away, since you brought up Hell's Kitchen, is there a connection made to other Marvel characters
not only
previously known?
Daredevil, you're talking Daredevil, yes.
Yeah,
It's mentioned, there's connections, but they
anything on
even
Iron
mention
Fist?
like the incident, kind of like how Daredevil mentions the incident.
Okay.
Hulk keeps coming up. He never shows up, but he keeps coming up in conversation.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Luke Cage
Yeah.
is in this from the very
Yes.
first episode.
Oh,
But
really?
he's not in every episode.
Yeah, but
Oh.
he's in it from the beginning. And
I understood he wasn't going to show up till like midway through.
Oh no, he's in the very first.
Oh,
Flirt
okay.
Away. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's in more episodes than not, but he does disappear for a while.
Anything on Iron Fist?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for a little tease of on Iron Fist, but
I
think
do not recall. I've only seen these once, and I binged them. And sometimes when you binge, you might overlook something. You know what I mean? It's easier, I think. But I do not recall any Iron Fist. But they mention the Avengers. They mention Hulk more than once. And there are references to Daredevil and Daredevil characters. And whether that means one shows up or not, I don't know.
Yeah, and there's I don't know, it's a very interesting play because like both Jessica Jones and Luke Cage both know that they have powers, and Jessica Jones puts it really well. She's like not hiding them, not advertising them. She's like,
Yeah.
so like I'm sure like Shield like has talked to her, whatever, but her powers aren't like that super remarkable. I mean, she's stronger than average, but she's not that strong.
And she's definitely breakable and mortal, and yeah. And we do find out the limitations of those powers later quite a bit.
Oh, really? Huh.
Well, and
Yeah.
I mean the
I'll
power
say.
the power that Kilgrave has over her. I mean that he's still in her head. Like that is the biggest weakness that she seems to have, even from the very beginning. It's like she is majorly depressed. She's a drunk. She has major post-traumatic stress going on with all of these things, and she hasn't worked out any of this stuff. She's a very broken human being, even though she's incredibly strong. And she gets beat up a lot. I mean, in that, it really does share that connection with Daredevil. They're still really trying
They
to
can both take a beating.
yeah, geez.
Yeah.
But it's not that actiony of a show, and I think
No.
that is I find it really interesting. I really like this because it is a character drama where occasionally fight sequences happen, but it's not even Daredevil. Like Daredevil was a slow burn. This is even slower.
Yeah. And it's all about the characters. It's all about Jessica trying to get over this trauma that she refuses to deal with. She's basically, like, she's not in complete denial. She knows what happened to her is bad, but she's in denial about how bad off she is as a result. And that's what sets up, you know how, like, what the overarching case had a lot to in Daredevil, you know, they encountered all these different things, but there was the overarching case where you know, they tried to, like, it started with what's her name at the beginning, and then it became about the tenants and everything else. There was always these cases and stuff, but the overarching case that happens in this show, it's only a big deal because she makes it a big deal because this girl was a victim of Kilgrave as well. So the woman she's trying to save is a victim of Kilgrave who went through the same thing, mind control. She was raped repeatedly by him, not being able to get away. this all becomes an issue only because Jessica makes it an issue because she sees in that girl herself. And so by trying to save her, I think Jessica thinks she's going to save herself as well. If she saves the girl, she can save herself.
Totally.
And so and that's what I'm reading from it, and it's it's all about her journey, not only to save this girl but herself, and to do that she has to confront her demons, every single one of them, and the biggest one of course being Kilgrave himself, who she thought was dead. That's the only reason she has even the slight grasp that she has on her life. I mean, and it's just a slip of a grasp, but she only has that because she thought Kilgrave was dead, and it turns out of course that he's not. And I love how they introduced him. You know, it's just like in Daredevil where you could hear his voice and he was referred to, but you didn't actually see Kingpin until like the second or third episode, and they showed him from behind and very menacing. You get the exact same kind of reveal with Kilgrave, and it works once. It's like lightning struck twice in the same place because it worked brilliantly here.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's really excellent, and hats off to David Tennant and to all the other actors in this show. I was skeptical of Kristen Ritter in this part. Mm-hmm. I've been very pleased with what I've seen so far.
And one more thing I want to add, since I've seen the whole thing, and I don't think this is too spoilery. You know, Luke Cage is in it, right? And I told you, though, that he's not in every episode. I was happy about that because if he was in every episode, if he was always there to back up Jessica or save her, then it doesn't become just her show. It's sort of the Luke and Jessica show. They were really, they made this really great dance to avoid that. So that it could stay focused on Jessica and her journey and not become about their relationship or their adversarial, whatever happens with them, it's not about that. And so I really appreciated that. And there were references made to Daredevil, and that if she needed his help, she could call him. And I'm just going to say right now, Daredevil doesn't show up. Thank you for that. Because if he'd shown up and helped save the day, especially at the end, that would have just ruined it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, this has to be Jessica's journey. She has to figure out how to get around Kilgrave. And so if they had brought in a bunch of superheroes, or if Luke had swooped down and saved the day at the last minute, it would have set all of this back. Because it's important, and I think women like me are paying attention to this even more, because it's just barely this year that we're really starting to finally see more female superheroes in these movies beyond just, Scarlet Witch and Black Widow. And so it's important that they do it right, and they don't fall into those same tropes that so many females in superhero films or television do. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it was important to me that it didn't become about Luke Cage, that it didn't become about Daredevil or the Avengers or anything else, and it didn't. It's about Jessica, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, it's definitely about her, but she has an entire female support network behind her. Mm-hmm. Like her best friend, who she's kind of on the outs with at the beginning, and the lawyer who she works for, played by Carrie-Anne Moss. And it's like, here are a bunch of powerful women, and all working together. And yeah, I didn't want to see, there's a really great scene where there's kind of a team-up fight between Luke Cage and Jessica Jones in the second episode. Mm-hmm. And that was really fun to see.
Yeah.
But I didn't want them going out and fighting crime like that, because this is Jessica's story. The same way I didn't want Daredevil going out and oh, here, suddenly Captain America's here. Then it's so what? Then the Kingpin is no longer a big threat if Iron Man and Hawkeye show up too. It's what's the point? This is literally them dealing with their own demons and their story. And so I'm glad that they're keeping it separate. And
Yeah,
we're all going to get the payoff that we want when they get around to making the Defenders show.
exactly. They don't need to bring him in now and do all the team ups now. I mean, Luke Cage is an important part of this story, but again, he disappears for several episodes. Um, and when he returns, though, he doesn't overtake the story, and they could have easily let it do that. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't. So, but you're right. We can wait for the Defenders. I mean, well, it sucks because these first two shows have been so good. You just want to see the rest. You want to see where else they're going. And from the preview of season 2 of Daredevil, it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm kind of thrilled because I was worried. I'm not gonna lie. Even though Daredevil was fantastic, I was worried because this is the first time a woman's carried something like this in the MCU. You know what I'm saying? This is the first time a woman's carried it all on her shoulders. And Kristen Ritter is so slight. You're like, can she do it? But she did it. I mean, yeah, hats off to her. Fantastic. I mean, this whole thing was really well cast.
Yeah. So I'm excited to finish the rest of it. Hopefully during this week I'll be able to, and Mark, you'll be able to as well, and then we can after Thanksgiving, while we're drunk on turkey gravy, um, we'll talk Jessica Jones and how awesome it was and how uber creepy David Tennant is. So yeah, that's awesome. Gosh, we have so much to look forward to. We've got Star Wars in like a month. We've got 2 more episodes of Doctor Who this week and next week, and then we've got a Christmas episode just a couple weeks after that.
Right.
Like, we are in nerd heaven right now. And so, in the spirit of it being Thanksgiving week, I am so grateful for that. And I posted this on Facebook a little while ago. Um, but I am really grateful for Jessica Jones, because Alias was the comic that brought me back into comics. I fell away from comics going into high school. I was like, yeah, that was, kid stuff. It was fun. I enjoyed it. But now I'm into rock and roll and girls and whatever. And I'm not reading Chris Claremont anymore. And by then it was like the death of Superman and the legacy virus, and I'm kind of like, I'm done. And then a friend of mine, about 14 years ago, was like, no, you have to read this. This is an amazing comic book. Don't judge it by its title. I know it's called Alias. It has nothing to do with the Jennifer Garner TV show. Just watch it, or just read it. You will enjoy it. The guy who's writing it is amazing. He's also writing Ultimate Spider-Man and a bunch of other stuff. You've got to get into it. And I read it, and I was like, wow, this is finally, I feel like the medium grew up with me. And then because of that, I found this whole other world of kind of adult-oriented comic books. And I don't mean that like, oh, adult comics, like Japanese manga, octopus tentacle rape stuff, but
Jeez.
but stuff like Preacher and Ex Machina and Why the Last Man and everything like that. And I'm so grateful for Alias and grateful for Brian Michael Bendis for writing it, and grateful that now we've got it on. I mean, it's not TV, it's Netflix, but we've got what is, for better or for worse, a TV show, an amazing TV show starring some amazing actors telling this awesome story, and I can't help but feel like it's just going to keep getting better. So that's what I am thankful for this Thanksgiving, is for Alias and Jessica Jones and bringing me back into comics.
Awesome. I think I would say that I'm thankful that comics never left me. They were my saving grace when I was a kid because I was so awkward and weird and different, and that was the world I would escape to, and it gave me great comfort. And like you, once I hit high school and the multiverse in DC came around, I got so turned off by it, and I ended up letting it go. But you know what? I grew up, became an adult, and these comic book movies started showing up. Star Wars came back, and this thing that I grew up having such comfort with never really left me, and I still have it. And I have this kid now that is liking it, and I'm getting such a kick out of it. So in the end, the nerds won, and I'm part of that group, and it feels great. And it's like you said, we have so much awesome happening right now. It's so easy to overlook all that. We have a lot of fun, and I'm also thankful for everybody in that world that I shared things with. And I'm thankful for you two guys. You guys are awesome, and I love doing this.
Aw, you too. Right back at you.
So I have a lot to be thankful for, and it's been a nice ride. It's been a nice ride, and we have so much more to look forward to. So I'm thankful for that as well.
Wow, I didn't know we were gonna do this part.
We're putting you on the spot, Melissa.
Right.
On the spot.
So many things I'm thankful for. Obviously, you know, the usual, like my family, especially my nephews, who I'm going to be spending a lot of time with finally this week when they're off school. But, you know, I too am thankful for some of the same things. You know, when I was a kid, we didn't have, like, all of our extra money went to sending us to private school, so we didn't even have beds. We slept on the floor for years because, you know, it was either a bed or school tuition, and we weren't given the choice. It was school tuition, you know. If given the choice, we're dumb kids, we might have chosen public school and beds, you know. But I'm thankful that didn't happen, because I was sort of, by going to that school, I met my friend Ronnie, who I'm unfortunately no longer in contact with. We started, you know, because she moved away and things happened, but she introduced me to Star Trek, which I was only like Star Wars at the time, and she like could tape it and watch it because my grandmother wouldn't let me watch it. You know, she was like, what are you watching this out in space? It's not real. It's a fantasy. I'm like, yeah, Grandma, that's the point. You know what I mean? Like, you don't always want to watch realistic stuff. But she wouldn't let us watch it. So I could go to my friend Ronnie's and watch it, you know? And because she'd always tape it on her VCR, like, because I'm aging myself now. And I'm thankful for that, you know, because she sort of gave me that, I guess education is maybe the word. She had comic books that, you know, I only got to read the ones that my neighbors would give us, you know, after they were done with them and stuff. And so, but with her, I could get all into the geek stuff, and it was cool. It was okay, you know what I mean? So I'm thankful for that because, you know, it brings me so much joy now seeing it's almost like this revival or something, especially with Star Wars, which I'm really, really thankful for and can't wait to go see. Mm-hmm. I'm thankful for technology that I can just pull up Netflix and watch any episode of Star Trek that I want. I can, you know, and I have like, you know, I can watch like the old VHS Star Wars, the original trilogy, you know, without all the enhancements, or I can watch the one with the enhancements because technology is awesome. And mostly I'm glad that I haven't lost that kind of slack-jawed, wide-eyed wonder like I thought I had. Like kids today, I love my nephews, but they've seen it all. You know, they don't remember what it was like to not have all this technology, to not have cell phones or MP3s or even Netflix. And so they've seen it all and nothing impresses them. So I'm happy for slack-jawed, wide-eyed, childlike wonder, you know? Yeah, and I am thankful for you too as well because I really do enjoy this podcast, even though I've been absent a lot lately. But it's a lot of fun to bounce all these ideas off people who aren't Eeyore because my closest Doctor Who friend is just a complete Eeyore when it comes to everything. He just can't really manage to enjoy anything. And with you guys, I can enjoy Doctor, even when we're like yelling at each other. We can still enjoy the show together. You understand?
Especially when we're yelling at each other.
And I'm thankful I've got every single Christmas gift already bought, and that's so I don't have to
Wow.
do not have any shopping to do. My mom does all my gift wrapping for me because she knows if she doesn't, I will put it all in HEB bags and throw it at people because I do not wrap. But yeah, so I'm thankful for all these things. Yeah, I'm like excited. I'm even thankful that I get to take my nephews to the movies this week. You know what I mean? Because it's just something that we can experience together. And so many little things. It's all the little things that add up.
Cool.
In the words of Luke Cage, sweet Christmas. So yeah, this is going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to the next several weeks. So this has been great. Thanks to both of you. Thanks for everyone who listens. It's always really heartening to me to see like how many downloads we get every week. It's like it's in the hundreds. It's not like, oh my gosh, we have so many people listening, but that's really cool that someone would take the time to listen to us yokels, spout off about this stuff and argue with one another. So I really appreciate that. So thanks especially to all of you, and thanks to everyone at Big Shiny Robot who hosts our podcast and keeping that up there. But we will be back next week, and we are going to talk about Heaven Sent and figure out what the heck is going on here.
Yeah.
But until then, we will see you all next time.
Goodbye, world.
And that's over.